I published a review of the Canon 50mm 1.4 LTM lens the other day. A lens that I think is very good. As mentioned in the review, for a lens of its age, 1950s design, it's not overly sort of vintage, for want of a better word, in its character. It is softer wide open, it's lower contrast wide open, it flares a bit, but actually, and the colour's a little bit pastely, but actually, by the standards of other contemporary lenses, it's an incredibly good lens. I mentioned at the end of the review that whilst I thought it was good, it wasn't going to be a lens that I was going to keep. This was then joked about on the Classic Lenses podcast, wherein they suggested that because I had a Lamborghini, why would I want to drive a Ford something or other? I can't remember. So, brilliant. I don't think I do have a Lamborghini. What I do have is three lenses, three 50mm lenses. This is the point that I was making at the end of the review. I've already got a lot of 50mm lenses. I've got, I can see them from here, a whole bunch of them from here. I've got the 7 Artisans 50mm 1.1, which I don't use very much. I've got a Carl Zeiss, or a Zeiss Opton 50mm 1.5, also don't use very much. I've got a Jupiter 3, don't use that very much. I've got, what's the other one that's up there? There's a couple of, I think there's even a couple. Oh, it's the collapsible Elmar, the thread mount, don't use that very much. But I do have three lenses that I do find myself, okay, so initially there were two lenses that I found myself using quite a lot. Or having as what felt like my default for XYZ purpose. So my default 50mm lens has for a long time been this one, which is the Zeiss 50mm Sonnar ZM 1.5, which, if you've read my 8,500 word review, you will know I'm quite keen on. It's got its flaws. It has problems with focus shift, which don't really bother me. It's not amazingly sharp, but it has stacks of contrast, and the way it flares is lovely. It creates atmosphere in the images. It's a wonderful piece of glass. I tend to shoot it almost exclusively at f2. That's where it doesn't, focus shift isn't really a problem. If I stop it down, I tend to stop down to sort of f8. And that's just how I use it. Because of that, it's not, especially on digital, it's not the most practical of lenses for everyday purpose, but it does suit the majority of what I want to shoot with a 50mm lens. Mostly my kids and things like that. Or, I do a lot of, so on a commercial basis, I try and use this lens a lot. I've recently done a shoot with a motorcycle manufacturer and got some wonderful shots of just the way that the colours are wonderful with this lens, and as I say, the contrast, and it on digital it suffers with chromatic aberrations, but you just get rid of those in Lightroom, and what you're left with is just this amazing three-dimensional photography. I had the guy who runs the motorcycle company, the manufacturer, say to me that he, and this sounds conceited, it's not, he said that he didn't know that photography could look like that, and it was that three-dimensionality that we were talking about, and it's what this lens does. It's just amazing for it. So my next default lens is this, which is my, I can't focus, you stupid thing, which is my, it's essentially a Jupiter 8M So it's the Jupiter 8 off the what do you call it, the Kiev, whatever it is, the Contax copy anyway, remounted into the body of a Industar 26, I think it is. Brian Sweeney did it for me. It's wonderful. The Jupiter 8M is, it's almost the perfect classic lens for me. Wonderful three-dimensionality, but at the same time has that a really kind of classic kind of softness and kind of glow to the images, and the way it flares and handles light is lovely. Again, like in the same way as the Zeiss lens does, just without all of the sort of modern contrast, really. The third lens, which is a recent acquisition, the third 50mm lens, is this, which is my 50mm 2.5 Voigtlander. So this is the Color-Skopar. What I was looking for, I really like the Heliar. I really want to buy the 50mm 3.5 Heliar, because that again has really nice colours. I just can't justify it, the cost, and I can't deal with the handling. It's got this silly aperture that changes at the front, so when you change the aperture it turns the hole. It's just not that great a lens to handle. What I wanted with this lens was just a lens I can just chuck on the camera. I don't have to think anything about it. It's not necessarily for low light, it's just for day-to-day shooting. I can shoot it without any thought to dealing with things like focus shift. It takes modern looking photos. That's the end of it. So the point is with these three lenses, I've got pretty much everything that I could imagine I'd want. And that's fundamentally the reason why, as nice as the Canon 50mm 1.4 is, I just don't need it. I don't need. I'm thinking about selling my Jupiter 3 and my Opton because I don't need them. I don't use them. As nice as they are to have, you know, they're just sat there unused. All of these three lenses feel like they have a purpose and they fit different elements of my style and different elements of my sort of desire in terms of various subject matter. The 1.5, the Zeiss, will always be my favourite lens. I genuinely can't imagine a lens that's better. But sometimes it just, you know, sometimes you want something that's a little bit less contrasty, or sometimes you want something that's just, you can just fit and forget. You don't have to kind of work with to get the best results out of. So yeah, that's it really. Until somebody makes a Heliar that I can handle, those are pretty much my three lenses. I think my three 50mm lenses. 50mm lens is the focal length I shoot the most often, and this is the reason why I've, as I said at the end of that Canon review, I'm, as I say, not going to keep it, and I'm thinking about paring down. So yeah, that's that. Whether that answers any questions, the questions as to the colour of my Lamborghini. Thanks, Johnny. I drive a 2004 Audi A3 with quite a few thousand miles on the clock that just keeps on going, so I'm loath to and can't afford to replace it. If you must know, as I say, it's dark, it's sort of a metallic grey, black interior, black cloth seats, doesn't have many of the extras, air conditioning doesn't really work. Good fuel consumption though, more so than I would get out of a Lamborghini, and I can fit more in the boot. So there's that. That's it for this week. I will yeah, I'll catch up with you soon. Cheers for now.